Welcome to Strength for Single Moms podcast. Here we aim to grow spiritually from faith to faith, strength to strength, and glory to glory, to be fruitful and good stewards of all that God has given us so that we can best care for each other.
Hey everyone, this is Nancy and Blanca for this week's podcast. And this week we want to talk about raising teenagers, and not just teenagers, but just raising your children in general. And we just came together because we both have 15-year-olds and we realized that we're experiencing a lot of the same things with them.
Oh, yeah.
What are some of the things that you're experiencing?
Well, the attitude that they know more, he knows more than his mom. And I always tell him, listen, I've been around the block many times. Getting the attitude and now looking at himself in the mirror and the style and I feel like being of the world instead of trying to be himself.
Yeah.
Now everything is, this is the style that they're wearing. This is the store that he wants to buy at. And, just the attitude and the faces that he puts, it's like the minute I open my mouth, it's like he gets annoyed. This face that he puts, and that puts me in a very, very bad mood. And I just try and I breathe and I walk away, because I was the same way with my mom, and unfortunately, now I'm going through it.
But we're raising our kids in a different time where we can't discipline them the way our parents disciplined us.
Yes, that's true.
And social media, I'm sure you're seeing that it has a big influence on him, because I see that it has a big influence on my daughter.
I know he's on Snapchat. And he doesn't know, but I do get on it and I check it out, and so far so good. My thing is, that he listens to his friends, and he meets one person and right away they're his best friend.
Yeah.
And it's being naive with his friends and like maybe kind of following the friends, and that scares me a lot, that it just not listening to me, but listening to his friends.
Yeah, that's really scary, especially when we're trying to raise our children with a Christian worldview and they're not around Christians all the time. And even if they are around Christians, they're under the same influences that our kids are. So, we have to guide them. And I think we actually found something in the Bible that talks about that. I think you have it written in your notes, which is Proverbs 22:6.
Yes, Proverbs 22:6. Train up a child in the way he should go, even when he is old, he will not depart from it. And you know what? This one really got to me, because I always tell him that, I'm here to try and help you, and so you can, what I'm teaching you and from what I'm trying to show you, and go to church and God and just things that he's going to apply. I tell him, you're going to apply all this when you get older. You're going to look back and remember, my mom, she taught me this, or when we went to church, the pastor said this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I tell him. I'm here to help you, and this is how God is with us. He gives you the free will, and he teaches us, and he puts things in our path. Like, look, this is what it is. But I mean, we have the free will that we go take this path or we take the other path, and that's what I'm trying to teach him. Like, trying to help, like, not to take that path, but take this one. But I can't. I can only tell him, give him my opinion, teach him, and try and let him, fly.
Can I tell you something encouraging? We don't think that they're listening to us when we're telling them these things, but I know for a fact that they are, because I found something on my daughter's phone about a month or so ago, and she knew she recorded herself doing something, and she knew she shouldn't have been doing it, because one of the things she said was, she looked up and she says, "I don't care that God is watching." And so she knew that what she was doing at that moment was wrong. So wow. They do listen, but like you just said it so clearly, they have free will, and we can only teach them right from wrong and hope that they make the right choice. But know that when they make the wrong choice, they know that they did it, even though they don't realize it at the time. But once it gets them into whatever situation they're in, then they realize, wow, my mom did tell me about that, or my mom's friends told me about that. So we can't always control what they're doing at school, unfortunately, but just know that they are listening and that they are paying attention to what it is that we're teaching them. So don't let that discourage you, because he's listening. But they're at that age now where they don't really like to hear what we're saying to them.
I know, he always puts a face, he doesn't say it, but the face says, "Oh, here it comes."
Yeah.
And it frustrates me, it aggravates me. And a couple of times I would walk away and I'll go to my room and pray and cry, because
I've done a lot of that.
I just don't want him to make the same mistakes that I made growing up. I was very trusting with friends, and just thought they were my friends, and followed and did things I wasn't supposed to, and then at the end, got stabbed in the back. And and my mother always said to me, you're so naive when it comes to friends. To me, when I met a person, a girl, whatever, and they were nice to me, that was my best friend already.
But do you think that came with experience? Because I look back now and I was the same way. I was trusting, and I had friends who turned out not to be real friends. And I had to learn that the hard way, even though some of those friends, my mom said to me, that person's not a good person.
And my mom too, yeah.
But, and now we do that with our children. And I think we forget that they're still kids, and we want them to be quick like we are. But what I've been trying to do lately is put myself back in those 15-year-old shoes. So when I get told, you're so bossy and you're so this and you're so that, I'm like, wait a minute, I used to say the same things to my mom. So that has helped me kind of deal with her differently, because I can put myself in her shoes and say, I understand how you're feeling, because I used to feel the same way. This is how my mom helped me get through it, and this is how I want to help you get through it. It's made things better communication wise, because the one thing that I learned is that we're still their parents, and that's what I told her. I'm not your friend, I'm your mother, mm-hmm. But I still want her to come to me, because the last thing we want is for them to go to their friends who are experiencing the same things, and then the friends are telling them, you don't need to take that from your parent. So, we're so hard on our kids that we forget that they have these outside influences. And Blanca and I were talking about this just right before we started recording. We were looking, obviously, passages, because we always go to the Bible on how to raise our kids. And the one that I found that stood out to me, because I do it, is in Colossians chapter 3, verse 21. It's under the section that says instructions for Christian households. So it talks about wives and husbands and children. It says, children, obey your parents in everything, for this pleases the Lord. But then right after that, it says, fathers, do not embitter your children, or they will become discouraged. And that's something that Blanca and I talked about, because we tend to be hard on our kids. I mean, obviously, I know that both of us are very hard on our kids. Yeah. But one thing that when I get caught up in my anger and in my frustration, is that I start beating her up verbally, you need to focus on your grades, and you're so lazy, and you have potential, but you don't want to do it. And, I'm trying to raise a productive person. And I could just go on and on and on with all the things that I say to her. And that's what this is saying. Don't embitter them, because then we discourage them. And thankfully, my daughter feels comfortable enough with me that she will tell me when I'm doing that to her. Not disrespectfully, but she's learned to communicate it with me, because I've encouraged her to call me out on it, because when we get so caught up in our rage, we don't realize that we're doing it. So, that's something that we have to remember with dealing with teenagers, and just children in general, especially teenagers. I think that we still have to discipline them, the Bible tells us to discipline them, and I think you have another verse on that, but we have to discipline them, but we have to also encourage them. Or maybe that's the verse you already read.
I think so, yeah.
It's this one.
It's Proverbs 13:24. Whoever spares the rod hates his son, but he who loves him is delighted to discipline him. I don't know about it. That is true, but I don't know if it's so tiring trying to discipline him. I don't delight in that.
But you delight in the Lord when you do
Yes,
discipline him,
yes.
because you're doing what the Lord wants you to do. And it's tough. Who said it wasn't tough? I mean, I just look back and I'm sure that Mary, Jesus was perfect, but he was a kid also. And I like to think of him, he came down to earth to be one of us. And I want to think of him as like this mischievous kid that even though he had a big heart for everyone, like our kids have a big heart for everyone, but they still got into little things here and there. And
I was thinking the other day about when we were talking about doing this podcast, I was thinking that I wish that when Jesus was a child, that there was somebody recording and writing, like the apostles, during his time and when he was preaching. So I can know and see like what kind of child he was, how was he in the teenage years and stuff, But,
yeah, the closest glimpse we have to that is, what James wrote about him, and
when he went to the temple.
So there's very little written about his childhood, but man, would that have been interesting to read? I think that would have been really encouraging for everyone.
To see what Mary went through in those times.
Yeah.
With him. Yeah.
And just how it was handled back then. Thankfully, God knew what he was doing when he sent down all these books in the Bible, and and teaching us everything that we need to know. And recently our pastor at church was talking about the book of Proverbs, and really delving into it, because it's got all the wisdom that we need in there, and it really does. And the one thing that I do when I'm having issues with my child is I go to the Bible and see what it says. Even about I Google everything, because obviously the Bible's a big book, and you're not going to know where to find things. So I'm a researcher. I always go online, and then I go to my Bible and see what it says. Make sure that what it says online is what the Bible says, and just follow up with that, with the Bible and prayer, because that's our instruction manual, and that's where everything that we're doing gets laid out for us.
And because of you, because when I first met you and you did all that, and other girls in our group, I have started doing that too. Go to the Bible, I'll Google everything, and then it'll give me a verse, and I'll go to the Bible and I'll read it. And when to piggyback what you were saying, that when your daughter, like when you're talking to her, like you're disciplining her, and she'll tell you, like make you aware of how you're saying things to her. And
yeah.
Well, he does the same thing too. Like sometimes I just don't realize it, and he'll come out and say, "Mom, well, why are you yelling?" And I don't hear myself yelling. I'll start talking, and then, but you're supposed to do this, and and then he'll like, whoa, ma. Why are you yelling? I'm right here. I'm not outside.
I think that would infuriate me. I get. I think that would make me even madder.
No, but he says it in a respectful way,
Yeah.
And if he has something to tell me and it's not good news or whatever, he'll say to me, "Okay, Ma, you need to sit down for this." So this is, it's like a code for me. Okay, I say to myself, okay, he's gonna tell you something. It may be something he did at school, or something's going on. You need to be calm, listen to him, to what he's saying, and don't overreact. Just, that's like a code for me. I always tell him, okay, if it's something serious.
That's so good.
Yeah. So
That's good, because you prepare yourself for whatever it is that he's going to tell you, and that also helps you prepare your reaction, because sometimes our reaction to what they tell us is key. I remember she told me on her birthday that she had a boyfriend, and I had to take a deep breath when she told me that, because I was like, in my mind, I'm like, what do you mean you have a boyfriend? How come, I know nothing about this, and how you're not even old enough to make this decision for yourself. And so I just kept cool about it. And when we were having her issues with school, and because it was coincidental that her grades were dropping around the same time, she started talking to this boy. And she said to me, "Are you going to make me break up with him?" And I said, as much as I would love to, I'm not going to, because you're at the age where you're going to start liking boys and you're going to want to date, but you cannot keep it a secret from me, and he needs to ask me permission. I'm still waiting for that, by the way, because she has put the fear of God in him about me, which I'm glad that she did. And he's very scared to approach me, because once he approaches me, I will be calling his mother to talk to her about it, because I'm not sure if she knows. But anyway, I don't want to get into that here. It's just that we just have to remember that we just watch your reactions, because we want them to come to us, the good, the bad, and even the ugly, because at their age, they're not able to get themselves out of some of the messes that they put themselves into. So we can't help them if we don't know.
And I'm trying to do the best that I can with that, because I wasn't like that with my mom. I mean, we weren't close. I mean, I had my best friend. She had 2 older sisters, so I learned a lot of stuff from them, because they went through, the women's stuff and all that. But I never was able to sit down with my mom and say, "Hey, Mom, this is going on." I think I did that maybe like 1 or twice, and the reaction was, I would say, "Mom, I'm sorry, I made a mistake." And the first time that she said to me, "Well, I mean, when are you going to learn from your mistake? You keep making a mistake." So ever since that time, I never went to her, and I don't want that with him. I want him to come to me. I want us to have that communication, and that's the issue that we were having in the beginning. It's just the communication. And I would lash out, he would lash out, and he has my temper, plus he has his dad's temper, so he's has double the trouble there. And what helped us was a good friend of ours. She had to do a report, a project for, I think it was for her psychology class, and how she can help somebody with whatever they're struggling with. We were talking about doing maybe like a weight loss or something like that. When we went to the house and we started talking, I don't know, God just brought it to us to help with our relationship. And so anyway, the project is done, but what's been helping us is you get a notebook. You have this notebook. It's a notebook, and you leave it in a neutral place. And let's say something happened, I asked him to do something and he didn't do it, or he got a little snappy with me or sassy with me and stuff. Instead of lashing out right there, I would take the notebook, I write the date that it happened, and I write, I asked you to do something, I'm really disappointed, I'm trying. So it's like a little journal, and then I put it in on his bed, where he knows that, okay, my mom wrote something. He'll read it, and he'll read, my words, how sad he made me, or my concern, instead of, "What do you mean I told you to do this and you didn't do," but just writing it down, politely.
That's a great idea.
And then he would write something back, and he would put it on my bed. And a lot of times it would be, I'm sorry, Mom, for not listening to you. But you sometimes I'm in the middle of something and you just come out, and so it makes us, when I read it, I'm like, oh wow, I didn't know that I did that, and I would, okay, I'm sorry, right? And it opened up more the communication, and it has helped. So I mean, we're still doing it. Some days we're good. We just communicate to each other, and we don't even have to go to the book.
I think that's the whole point of it, right? To help make you both comfortable with communicating, so that eventually you don't go to the book, you go to each other.
So that's a great idea. You know, so I mean,
awesome.
If it helps somebody out there to do it, I mean, it's been helping me and my son a lot, and also with him, because he's you know him, he's quiet unless he starts to know you, and he acts himself, but he's shy. So it's been good.
And that makes communication harder also, because they are quiet and sometimes they don't know how to communicate. And I'm just speaking for the two of us in this room right now. We are two very strong personalities. Yeah. We can be intimidating to our children. And as tall as your son is, I know that you can still intimidate him. And that's part of the respect that they have for us. That's also part of the fear that they have for us. Which is sad, but they do fear us a little bit. And I know that because my daughter told me that she fears me, and secretly between us, I'm glad that she does. Because it makes her think twice about her decisions. But
well, my son now, I mean, he knows that I don't play, because growing up, I didn't have that relationship with my mom, but I did get hit a lot. So I don't want to, when he was younger, yeah, I did. I spanked him, but he's old right now. So I tried to have that communication that I didn't have. But, one day, he came out with something and it wasn't very nice. And I just was at,
your wit's end.
Wit's end, yeah. And I just lost it. I'm from New York, and I just lost it. I got up in his face. Like when I used to go and have people pick on me, I used to have fights. I used to get up in the faces of the girls and, what are you talking about? And I did that with him. And my son looked at me like, who is this woman?
But do you think it's not so much that you're from New York as much as it is that you're a single mom and you're a 24/7 mom?
Yeah, and I was very angry. I was very angry and hurt, very angry, hurt, frustrated. I'm like, all these emotions just came that day. Yeah. And I just let it loose. And he looked at me like, he didn't say anything. And what I had asked him to do, after all that, I went to my room. I went to the bathroom. I put cold water on my face. I started crying. I started praying, and I was like, Lord, what did I just do? But I hope that this didn't bring us back all the way back from the beginning to the beginning, Yeah. So I came out of my room. We were ready to leave, and he did what I asked him to do. If he would have just done what I asked him to do, it wouldn't. And then there was another issue a couple of weeks after that, and he was getting sassy. He kept on repeating something, and I got upset, and I took a belt and I ran to him and I said, say that again, just say that again.
I remember you telling me about that incident.
This kid just stayed quiet and was like, okay, Mom, I'm sorry. But I was not going to hit him. But I'm like, say that again. What did you just say? And I have the belt up.
It's just like putting a little bit of fear in them.
But yeah, and then he was like, my mom's crazy.
Yeah, but we're also human, and we are doing this 24/7. I have her 24/7. I don't get a break, so it's exhausting. But we can't give up because eventually they're going to be going through what we're going through with their children, and we want to teach them the right way and the right path, and teach them about God and how much He loves them no matter what. And I honestly, I never understood how much God loves me until I came to faith in the Lord. But after having her, like, the way we love our children, can you imagine? Like, God loves us even more than that. And that to me is so overwhelming, because I love her so much that I would give my life for her and all this stuff. And I think about it, and God loved us so much that He gave His only Son for us. And just, it's so overwhelming, because his love is even more infinite than the love we feel for our kids. And I really believe that was one of the gifts that he gave us as parents, is to really know how much he loves us, because we have that love for our children. And to me, that's just so amazing. And I just every time I talk about it, I get overwhelmed, because it's just, everyone says he gave his only son, but as a parent, can you imagine sacrificing your child for humanity? I don't know if I'd be able to do that.
No, and you're right about what you say, because when I look at my son and I talk to him, and and he gets sassy, and I'm trying to teach him, trying to discipline him and stuff, and then it just makes me think of me, like how God, geez, this is what he was doing to me. This is what he was trying to, to teach me, to help me. And when my son says something to hurt me, or gets rebellious and stuff, I was like that. And I know that God has been putting things in my path to get me to the place where I am now. But in the beginning, I didn't listen. I rebelled against him, and I went and did what I wanted to do, and thought that I could do it on my own, and thought that I knew better than he did, and and it just.
And that's exactly what our kids do to us.
And that's why, and I'm like, wow, Lord, is this what you? This is how it is. Is this how you felt? Is this how it was with me? And now I'm going through it with my son, and and I tell my son, I said, listen, and I tell him, I would give my life for you. I love you. I wouldn't be here. It's a blessing that you have me and I have you. You think this is a coincidence that we're together? No, God put us together, so he has a plan for us. So so yeah, I understand what you're saying.
That's awesome. So I think that we've talked enough to give you all enough to take away with you. I want to reread the verses that we gave to you. We gave you Proverbs 13:24, Proverbs 22:6. We gave you Colossians 3:21, and then Blanca has one last one that we're going to close out with.
It's 1 Timothy 4:12. It says, "Let no one despise you for your youth, but set the believers an example in speech, in conduct, in love, in faith, in purity."
And that's just telling us how to treat our children when we deal with them. So we hope that you could take something away from this, and just know that you're not struggling alone with what your children are going through, or what you're going through with your child. It's normal, even though we don't like to think that it's normal, but we just have to stay firm in our faith and keep teaching them that God loves them, and keep teaching them what the Bible says about their behavior. That's one thing that I go with my daughter. I once we're calm after the situation, obviously, I'll sit and I'll pull out the Bible, and I'll say, let's read what God has to say about what just happened. And don't only point out what they did, but I also point out what I did wrong. So that's why you can't speak when you're in anger. Sometimes she and I will follow back up the next day with a conversation or a disagreement that we had, only because what you say in anger affects them as well. So we hope this encouraged somebody. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for supporting us, and we cannot wait to see what God is going to do in your children's lives.
Bye.
Bye.